Love the shirt.
Henry.
And there's Candy, the one responsible for the name of this podcast.
Yep.
All
I
right,
am.
guys, we are. Hold on, let me check the YouTube here and just make sure that we're live. But it looks like we are.
Henry, get Sluggo. And you can come in here when you want to, Henry.
Yeah, we're live.
All right, cool. Yeah, I just saw it pop up. All right, guys, cool. All right, I'll go ahead and get us started then. Hello, everybody, and what's up? I'm Big Mike with my buddy Ray, Big Country Cody, and tonight in the pit, we've got something really special. Not just one arm wrestler, but a whole family of them, and I'm talking about the Passmores. We're talking competition, pressure, family dynamics, and what it's like building a name together in arm wrestling. Well, let's get into it, everybody.
What's up, everybody? This is Ray Big Country coming to you from the Fuller's Pit. I want to welcome Paul, and Daniel, and just got to start this off right now. Candy came up with the name of this podcast, so she gets full credit.
Yep.
I didn't know that until just before you guys got in here. Thank you. That's because I love the name of it. So thank you very much.
It was actually a very well fitting name.
Yeah. At least I can say I've done something good in life, right?
Well, I'm looking at one thing that you did really amazing in life, sitting there in the middle. Daniel just did a massive wrestling tournament, kicking butt and taking names. So I actually want to start off with Daniel. Daniel, what I would like to know from you is tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, we pretty much know how you got into arm wrestling. I mean, you got one of the greatest arm wrestlers in the sport today sitting next to you. But I want to hear about the tournament that you just went to and kicked some major butt in.
So the tournament was traditional state for GHSA and at the varsity level, of course. And to qualify for it, you had to go to area and place top 4, which I won area. And then you had to go to sectionals by qualifying. So if you won area, right, top 4 in area, you got to move on to sectionals. And you had to place top 8 in your sectional to move on to state. And I ended up getting 3rd in the sectional. And then at state, I wrestled my first day. I wrestled some kid from Haralson County. He was really tall and really strong. But the second I got him on his back, he just like stopped fighting. And I pinned him. And then my second match at state, it was who did I wrestle?
What? Say that. Repeat that again.
No. What was that?
Try one.
No.
Repeat what you just said.
Anyway, I wrestled another kid. And
Wait, he said 190.
Oh,
He wrestles 190.
190.
Okay.
So anyway, I did good the first day, and then on the bus ride to the hotel, because it's a 2-day tournament, went back up before my match, my second match of the day. I just got up and taken a nap because you got like an hour or 2 in between matches. So I took a nap just to kind of chill out, wait for everybody else to catch up in the tournament. And before I took my nap, I was like, man, my stomach hurts. So I took a nap. I laid down, took like a 30-minute nap. And when I woke up, it was about time for me to start warming up and getting ready for my next match. My stomach still hurt real bad. And I was like, this isn't good. So I moved from our warm-up area to like the secondary warm-up area. And then it like goes out to the big arena. And whenever I got to that like second warm-up area, I saw a trash can. I was like, I probably need to stay close to that. And as I was walking towards it, I started to water it, and I threw up in the trash can. Just all in the trash can. It was horrible.
Oh.
Then I went and
The
wrestled.
stomach virus has been going around in social circles, so he needs to preface that in saying that.
Then I went
Okay.
and wrestled, and I forget who I wrestled, but I do know I pinned the kid. So my coach said from after I won my match, he said from puking to pinning. I thought that was pretty funny. So then we gathered everybody up that hadn't lost yet and wasn't in like the consos or anything like that, consolation bracket, which is the losers bracket. And we all got on the bus and we got to go back to the hotel early because we all went 2-0 the first day. So while we're all on the bus, we all leave the parking lot and we hit this red light, and we're at this red light forever. And then we go to the next one. My buddy next to me, Kale, he's like, he had lost, but he was also on the bus because this bracket was early. And
Yep.
he was like, I'm just going to battle through. I'm going to get third. I'm going to do this. He was like, just trying to find motivation. And I looked at him. I was like, I feel like I'm going to throw up. And he was like, you'll be fine, but I got to get third. And so I was like, all right.
When somebody tells me that, I'm getting up and getting in another seat. I take them serious.
So I got up. Actually, I didn't get up. We hit another red light, and it took forever again. And it's only like 7 minutes from the complex to the hotel. So
Yeah.
we hit the second red light. We're there forever, and we're getting about halfway down the highway. And I just saw my mouth start to water. I'm looking at what I got. I'm holding my entire wrestling bag, all my gear, and then I'm holding my water jug in this hand because I try to drink a gallon of water a day.
Yep.
And I look at it, I'm lost water. I can't tell anybody or warn anybody because it just hit me. And I open up my water jug and I try to puke into it, and it goes everywhere around it on the bus. Like, I hit everybody. I
He
feel
peeped on everybody in the bus.
I felt horrible. But since I'd already puked before the match, like my last match that day, it was literally
Right.
just water. So it's not like it was chunks in it and all that kind of stuff. It was just water. But I still threw up on people. So I felt horrible. I ended up getting cleaned up.
Domino effect?
What happened?
Did that cause a domino effect?
No, no one else threw it. Everybody else was like, oh. And I also was like, oh.
So then mom shows up to the hotel.
So mom's texting me, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on myself. And she's like, well, where's your hotel? I'm like, I don't know. It's called Comfort something. So she goes back on her, like, reminders and all that kind of stuff. She finds the hotel, and she meets me there because she was just at the arena, so it's only like a 10-minute drive.
Right.
Dad's already heading back home, by the way. And she comes and meets me, and, like, she take care of me. She brings me medicine. We were on this pull-out bed. And it was disgusting. I was just laying there. I was just on the mattress because I felt like death. And she like went down and got all the supplies or like sheets
I got
and all that.
sheets and
make
everything,
the bed.
towels.
So she made the bed, and I went to sleep. I thought I was going to. I was up pretty much all night, just sick. And then I had to wake up the next morning and go wrestle a whole like 4 more matches.
First day.
First day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Feeling the way I did, and I was able to come out with 5th place. I pinned my very last match. That kid was supposed to beat me, and I ended up pinning him.
Yeah, he was wrestling sick as a dog and still won 5th, and he
Wow.
wrestled really well. Yeah, so
I
he
mean,
probably would have got third if he wasn't sick.
Daniel, the last time I saw you, I think you were like 9 years old.
It was a minute ago.
Yeah, so do me a favor. The next time you see me, I'm an old man. Don't hurt me. Take it easy on me. So let me ask you this, Daniel. Michael had some issues with his computer, so hopefully he'll be back on soon. How do you feel? Now, I know you play a lot of different sports. You play football, you wrestle. How do you feel those got you ready and helped you prepare for an arm wrestling tournament? Because you're 17 years old, and if I remember correctly, I believe I saw a post somewhere or your dad telling me that you compete in the pro division, right?
Yes, sir.
He's
So-
16. He'll be 17 next month.
Yeah, I'm actually still 16, barely.
What day is your
but
birthday?
March 7th.
Oh, mine's March 29th. Awesome. It's a good month.
It is a good month.
Yeah.
So
So how do you feel your other sports help you with arm wrestling? And do you find that the training for all three of them are pretty much the same, or do you break it up depending on what you're happen to be competing in at the time?
so for football and wrestling, I know I'm the punter for football, and so whenever you're out there, it's all eyes on you, and you got to just forget about that. So there's a lot of pressure on you, of course. Whenever you got to punt, it's like, well, dang it, now we got to punt. If you mess up a
Right.
punt, that can determine the game. So you got to go out there just empty-minded and just catch the ball and kick it. That's just what you got to think. Of course, there's more that goes into it, but just catch the ball and kick it. So,
Right.
so my first varsity game, I ran out there and I was kind of nervous for my first punt, and I got it off and it was pretty good. But then my second punt ever is when I was the most nervous, and it still ended up being a good punt. But I just remember the nerves, they were getting me real bad. And as the season went on, my nerves just died. Like I stopped getting nervous at all. And I feel like in arm wrestling, whenever you're up there on that table, especially at like the pro level, it's pretty much all eyes on you if you're somewhat of a prospect. So I know with football, that definitely helps kill the nerves and just go out there just focused and ready to go. And then with wrestling, it's the one-on-one thing. It's you versus the other guy. So that definitely helps with arm wrestling because, like I said, with wrestling, it's one-on-one, you versus the other guy. And, of course, there's Team Georgia, just like there is your school team. But wrestling's an individual sport when it comes down to it. So that's how I feel like my sports have helped me with that and with arm wrestling. And then with the training, football and wrestling training, like workout-wise, they're about the same. But arm wrestling training, completely different. You can't train for football and expect to get arm wrestling results. You just can't.
Right. So where do you feel the most pressure? Getting ready for a big arm wrestling tournament, a wrestling tournament like you just competed in, or getting ready for a big game?
Definitely getting ready for a big game. Arm wrestling, I've been doing it so long, it's just another day in the books. But getting ready for a big game, it's my junior year, and I'm just now starting on varsity and all that. So I feel
Yep.
like it's more nerve wracking getting ready for these big games.
Nice. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate you coming on here, man. And again, like I said, it's been awesome. You know, your mom and your dad make sure that the whole world gets to see how well you've progressed. And for me, because I met you when you were such a little take, it's just such an honor to see you and how you've grown and you've been so successful in your sports. But I want to move over to Candy Crush, Candy Passmore. I know she hates it when I say that, but I like it. I still have.
I named your podcast. You gave me that name. So
Yes, I did. I remember because you were going to be, before I sold Country Crush, you were actually going to be in Muscle Sports Magazine. So I had to create a poster for you, and that's what I had put, Candy Crush Passmore, but it never made it into the magazine. And I know you guys were in Paul's office, but I'm really digging those belts there in the background.
yeah,
Those
Yeah,
Those
we're
look
very
nice.
proud of them. That was a very fun event. It's a very fond memory to us, and we really appreciate everything you did for us there. And winning those belts were great too. That was pretty cool to go somewhere with your wife and win a title belt, and then her win one too. And get a picture of it. It's pretty cool having your whole family involved in a sport that you love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it makes it that much more exciting. And Candy, on that particular event, Candy almost was a double belt winner,
Yeah.
because she stepped up and pulled Autumn, so Autumn could have a match, because unfortunately her match didn't work out. But, so Candy, if I remember correctly, I'm old, so again, you got to forgive me if I get the date wrong. You started pulling right around 2014, correct?
yeah. A tournament after Paul. So yeah.
So why don't you tell us about your journey in arm wrestling, some of your memorable matches, your hardest loss, some of the titles you won?
So the first tournament I ever had, it was Paul showed up and they needed more females.
My
It was
second
to
tournament.
it was his second tournament. I always want to call you Henry. Daniel was 4, and so he was still little, and it was to raise money for cancer, and they needed more females. So I jumped in. I even looked at Paul and was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. And they were all like CrossFit girls and all this stuff. It was like a CrossFit gym. And so I arm wrestled and I beat everybody. And so I was like, well, I mean,
Imagine that.
yeah, but I'm like, I was not in the shape I am now, just so you know.
Right.
But I mean, I literally, like, he was 4 and Henry was not even thought of yet. But I was like, okay, well, if Paul's going to do this, then, you know, we're a family and we kind of just whatever each other wants to do, then that's what we get involved in. And so the next tournament, I entered in again and I kept beating everybody. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I've kind of got something going on. But with me doing furniture and kitchen cabinets, like I'm always sanding. So I've got, you know, orbital sander and then the sprayer. And then, so I've got big hands for a female, wrist strength. So I just have that natural strength. And to be honest, I don't work out. Like I really don't. Like I'll do pull-ups maybe. The new side pressure machine though, I've been using the new side pressure machine.
I love that machine.
Yeah, I
Arm
will
Combat
attest to
did an
that.
amazing job coming up
Yeah,
with that.
I will say that I definitely, of all the things in the basement, I've definitely started using the side pressure
I'm
machine.
liking it.
But I just, you know, normally I would show up to a tournament to cheer on Paul, whatever, have a baby on my hip. And like I was pregnant with Henry, then I had a hysterectomy, and then like you pass the baby around and all this stuff. Like it's a big community.
Right.
Then I think my first super match ever was Blanca. Am I right?
I think so.
Blanca Vega.
Blanca Vega was my first super match ever. And I was definitely the underdog. And I definitely beat her. Of course, you know that, Raven.
Yeah, that's for a whole nother show on that topic.
Yeah, I shut a lot of people up with that match. And then I
remember all the drama behind that match.
Yes, it was awful. So I literally had never pulled left, like ever. So all my tournaments, usually it'd be maybe 1 or 2 females. I pulled Autumn before I really actually started pulling in Orlando years ago. And then that's when, is it Gun Show? Mm-hmm. Gun Show was there. That was the first time I ever met Gun Show. And she had on boots and like short blue jean shorts. And I was like, oh my God, she's amazing. And that was like the first time I really had ever been to like a big arm wrestling tournament. But that's when I have the picture with me and Autumn. And then, so I pulled Blanca. And then, like I said, the tournaments were like 1 or 2 women. Like if I had anybody to pull, I'd pull. If nobody showed up, nobody showed up. Then I had a super match with Sarah Collins McKinney in Texas. Paul had a super match that time. So they flew me and Paul out there, and I beat Sarah Collins McKinney. That was a big win for me. I've pulled Mirleen. Mirleen beat me. That was the same year in North Carolina. Same year Paul broke his arm. Mirleen beat me. And then we pulled at the first ever 98% Winter Blast years ago. It was the first one ever. And he pulled, what was his name?
Mike Aiello and
it was a
3-way with Mike Aiello and I forget the other guy's name.
Seltzer.
Brandon Elsesser.
Brandon Elsesser. And then I pulled, I just had her name in my head.
Sabrina.
Sabrina is killing it. She just beat the Black Scorpion, Michelle Dugan, this past weekend, all this stuff. So now I don't feel as bad losing a super match to her. But anyway, I've had several super matches. The only 2 super matches I've lost is like legit super matches, not to your life because that was not scheduled, but is to Mirleen and Sabrina. So I've won all my super matches. I've had a girl I beat out of Louisiana that called me out, came up to Georgia, and I beat her. I was the underdog for that. I'm always the underdog. But now, as of when we went to Connecticut was my first time ever pulling left because Angie Rose showed up to a practice and she was like, why don't you try pulling left? And I was like, I just feel like weird. Like, I don't know how to pull left. And I pulled left and she was like, oh, nice, Candy, nice. And I was like, okay. So I pulled left in Connecticut and it was against Lydia Tupper. And Lydia Tupper being 15, I looked at Paul and I was like, I don't have anything else for her. Like I was doing everything I knew how to do left. Of course, right, I won the whole entire tournament. But left, I beat everybody but Lydia. It was like I just couldn't figure it out.
It was still a really good match.
It was a great match. Like all the promoters, everything were like, we need Lydia and Candy. Everybody wants to see that match, which it will be a super match at Winter Blast. Me versus Lydia, left hand.
Nice.
But so I just had to like figure it out. So my next super match is Lydia left, Winter Blast. And then May 2nd at Queen of the Wing, I have Deb Banyan right. And
that's a legend right there.
Yeah. I think that the thing is, like, I've always had to pull all the weights because as a female, you show up to a tournament, and if there's not enough for 0 to 154, 154 plus, sometimes they'll have 176 plus, whatever. But if there's not enough and there's like 4 of you, you're just all together. And you know that with autumn pulling. So right. I've always pulled every weight class because we're always grouped together. So I've beaten bigger women. I'm more of a technical puller. So now that Ayers has, and most tournaments are now doing a 0 to 135 class, that's where I'm at. That's what I want. So I, lost weight, got in shape. I'm now 132 pounds all day long. And I'm like pulling Tara Terry. She was my weight. That was my first ever super match of somebody that was close to my weight. Every time it's always been somebody way heavier than me. I still end up winning, but it's just like you want somebody that's close to you. Just like me and Scarlett. Me and Scarlett go back and forth. I remember when Scarlett started pulling and she would show up to our practices and I would teach her stuff and all of that. So she's like my little protege. And then I pulled her at our last Georgia tournament. So she has the last win on me. But I was in a boot from having surgery. So I could have got it back, but she beat me. So I have yet to face her again to get my title back in Georgia. But yeah, I won 3rd place in Michigan. So I have a bronze gorilla, which I feel like looks more like an actual gorilla than a golden gorilla.
I like the golden one.
But I feel like mine looks more real. But yeah, so the ladies right 132 is what Ayers is. So that's what like Lydia wants to pull. She wanted to know if I would come in at 130 for a winter blast, and I can do that, but I feel like 132 is where we need to come in at because that's the air score. That's kind of what I don't care about Southeast rankings, in the hooks, all this stuff. My main thing is my air score.
And she's currently number 2 in airs in the women's 132.
Yeah, I'm behind Gun Show in airs. So I'm number 2 in 132. So and she'll be at Winter Blast, I'm sure.
She actually had a good match last year.
Yeah, I had a really good my best match at Winter Blast last year was against Gun Show.
Nice. Mike, you said you had a question, bud?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you. What move is your sort of your go-to, and what do you really? You're a top roller. So when you get that top roll in just right, describe it to the people who are out there? What does that feel like to you?
So I honestly, Daniel can attest to this. I actually, the last Jacksonville tournament, I don't ever get beaten right. And I'm not being like, jovial, whatever, boisterous, whatever. I don't ever get beaten right. But in Jacksonville, the same girls that I beat right, they were beating my right. And I was like, okay, maybe it's just not a good day at the office. And I was just doing my pullback, top roll, whatever. So then I did left hand, and I was like, well, let's see what my left hand can do. And Daniel, after my first match, he said, Mom, do a low hand top roll. And I was like, what is that? Like, I didn't know what a low hand top roll was. And so he showed me, and I was like, okay, I got it. So I went in there, and then I beat everybody left with a low hand top roll. So I'm definitely a top roller. I know how to go into a hook from a top roll, but I'm definitely a top roller all day long. Like it just feels comfortable. It's just more natural.
Oh, hold on. You're muted, buddy. Yeah.
What about you, Daniel? What's your move to go to?
Left top roll, right hook.
So why the difference?
I broke my arm in 8th grade, left arm, and they left me in my cast too long, so now I can't straighten my arm out all the way. And I found that I got like a sticking point on my left. I can lose my wrist and all that. That's fine. And I'll get to my sticking point, and they'll get me really here. They'll get me here really fast, like it's easy, and then they'll just hit a wall. And then I just sit there and hold them, and they get tired, and then I just climb back over and win left. And then right.
Well, you can use that as an like Michael Toddy. You can use the Queen's move.
I was just about to say, have you tried the King's move? Because that's like half of it right there.
I don't like squatting down like that. I feel gay.
He's definitely our kid.
And then right, I like to just dive in and stay tight because I know I can outmuscle a lot of people.
So he takes after his mom left hand and his dad right handed.
Sorry about that.
What's it like training with your spouse and your kids?
I love working out with them, training with them, doing stuff with them. Just having them part of the sport with me is just a major blessing. Traveling as a family and all having a similar passion for the sport, and then teaching each other moves. I never ever top roll, but after I broke my arm, Candy kind of taught me how to top roll. And I had to develop different moves after I broke my arm because I couldn't hook for a long time. And then, honestly, probably the most technical arm wrestler in the family is Daniel. we've all been arm wrestling the same amount of time. Daniel started arm wrestling when we did, when he was a little kid, and he's been doing it his whole life. And he's extremely technical. You know, he's got a good tackle box. He's really good at hooking, top rolling. He's fast. He's strong. You know, and he's been doing it his whole life, and he's been exposed to all the high level arm wrestlers that come to our house, because we hold practices for Team Georgia at our house. And, you know, he's gotten to meet John Brezink and Todd Hutchings, and Ron Bath is like a granddad to him. And, you know,
Wow,
we're
dude.
all, it's like a big family, and everybody takes up a lot of time. He's got to meet Devin Larratt traveling, and, you know, everybody just takes Daniel aside and teaches him little things. And he's picked up a lot over the years. He's very technical, and and it's funny, that arm break that he had, him and John Brezink had a conversation in my basement, and about the same age, John Brezink had the same injury. And he said that helped, the way it healed back, it helped his arm for the rest of his life be a better arm wrestler. And it was funny that, you know, Brezink and my son had the same injury at the same age, and John was telling him about it in the basement, you know, at my house. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's really cool training together, and the team, and, you know, the team's like a family, and everybody gets on the table together. And, you know, Daniel does my arm wrestling workouts with me, and there's nothing like watching your son, you know, grow and progress and learn. And, you know, now he's to the point where he's a good training partner for me. You know, we'll get on the table and spar around and train and pull some. And, you know, he's like pulling a grown man.
I used to compete him. I have nothing.
He's another pro puller. He's a 180, 190 pound. You know, he benches about 300 pounds, squats about 450, deadlifts about 450. I mean, he's a tank, and he's real technical and fast.
Get him on the bench.
Yeah. Yep, he's a bad boy. So, and he can give me work when we're arm wrestling now. So I don't really have to hold as many team practices, because I could just get Daniel to come down the basement and spar around with me.
So you mentioned some legends in there. So I'm going to ask you guys, because I know I've been having this debate a lot with a lot of people. So I want to hear what you guys. So the question in arm wrestling, same as basketball, same as football, who is the GOAT of arm wrestling? Now, I say Devin Larratt. And the reason I say Devin Larratt, not just because he's beaten everybody there is to beat, including John Brezink. He has single-handedly has elevated the sport to, I believe, the level that it is now. He's a true ambassador for the sport. He's everywhere. I mean, you can walk up to a random person and be like, hey, have you ever heard of Devin Larratt? Like just today, I had a guy in my house working on my bathroom, and he saw the arm wrestling table, and that's the first question he asked. Do you know Devin Larratt? So that's who I believe is the GOAT, and the reason why. Who do you guys think the GOAT of arm wrestling?
I think Devin is the modern day GOAT. He's the GOAT right now. My opinion, the overall all-time GOAT is still John Brezink.
Thank you. Exactly.
That's what I argue with about it.
I understand.
Thank you.
Exactly what you said,
bro. I'm right there with you.
But I want you to think about. I want you to think about this. All right, John Brezink is about. I want to say he's the same age as Michael Jordan. I did the research.
60 years old.
Yeah, I want to say they're about the same age. Can you imagine? Okay, so you're looking at John Brezink and Michael Jordan being the same age. Can you imagine Michael Jordan competing as long as Brezink did and being that high of a level in basketball in his sport as Brezink did? You know, he was Jordan is arguably the GOAT of basketball, but he retired in the 90s.
Okay, right.
You know, and it's like Brezink did all that, and he stayed competitive. He stayed beating Devin Larratt well until his late 50s. You know, I think
Ryan Grondin just said he's training for a match with Henry.
Yeah, and Henry won't come in here.
Mom, quit.
You won't come in here.
It's all right.
So I think the GOAT is, I think it's Brezink, honestly. I think modern day, like my dad said, it's probably Larrett.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say it's Larrett for modern day, and then Brezink all time.
So let me change the question. Do you think Devin has a chance, then, in your opinion, of being the all-time GOAT?
Absolutely. It's just like I used to say, Joe Montana was the greatest quarterback, and everybody kept saying Tom Brady, Tom Brady. And eventually I began to agree after Tom Brady did it for a certain amount of time. Now, yeah, I think Tom Brady is the GOAT, but he had to do it for the length of time that Montana did it. And once he did, and he accomplished more and was there longer, and yeah. But I believe if Larry can keep it up, into his, which he is getting older, into his 60s and everything, and stay on top the way Brezink did, the way he currently is, yeah, I think he could possibly eclipse Brezink for sure.
So one of the reasons, if I understood correctly, that you say John is the GOAT is because of how the longevity of his career.
Yeah.
With that being said, couldn't we say then Norm Devio, who's 85 years old, still competing at a top level, still beating guys 3-4 times younger than him, could be the GOAT, or maybe even for that matter, Alan Fisher? I mean, or is it strictly just off of who John's beat over the decades?
I think John has a better resume of people he's beaten. I think he's taken out the best of the best over the years. He's taken out some of the best ever, in not taking away from the other guys that you mentioned, but I don't think they have the names on the resume that Brezink does. Brezink has beaten Saplinkoff. He's beaten them all in their prime. Every new guy that came around for a while, Brezink took them down. And the only thing that ever really beat Brezink was Father Time.
Well, here's a trivia question for you. See if you can answer. Who is the only person, now there's only one, who is the only person John Brezink has never beaten?
Has he pulled them?
Yep. Pulled him in the over-the-top tournament.
Was it was Rick Zumwalt in there?
Rick Zumwalt, he was Bull Hurley. Yep. He was in the tournament, but it's not him.
Wasn't him.
I'll give you a hint. This particular man went from arm wrestling and became a professional wrestler. And he was big in WCW, and he was part of NWO.
Rick Rude.
No.
Ravishing
Nope.
Rick Rude.
Good guess.
Okay. Hold on. Scott Norton.
There you
There
go.
you go.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you start talking about wrestling, you're entering an area of my expertise. I'm a big wrestling.
Yeah, we
nerd.
had a Rick Rude in the chat too. Had him stumped, Ray. Had him stumped.
Yep. Yeah, no, Scott Norton is the only person John Brezink has never beaten. But Scott,
Interesting.
Oh. I heard Jeff Dabe say one time that he beat Rick Rude and he beat Scott Norton in a tournament in Minnesota.
Jeff told me that too.
Yeah.
Rick Rude actually very impressive arm wrestler. He was actually a champion arm wrestler.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Scott Norton, I think Rick Rude had if I remember correctly, when I was talking to both of them, when I had the opportunity, Rick Rude had the better resume.
Yeah, from what I hear, Rick Rude and Scott Norton were both amazing arm wrestlers. There's a lot of stories about them when they were wrestling on the circuit too. They'd go to bars and make a lot of money beating everybody in the bars and arm wrestling and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
None of the other wrestlers, no matter how big they were, could touch them.
So I'm going to ask one more question of everybody, and then Paul, we're going to get into you because I saved you for last. I know you and I this actually, I didn't even realize this till today. So I used to have another podcast called Mad in America. And it's kind of ironic that you couldn't do last week and we had to do this week, because I went back and looked at that old interview because I wanted to kind of familiarize myself with what we spoke about. And the ironic thing is your first interview on my podcast was on this day.
Really?
Yeah.
Did
I'm
that
sitting there looking at the date, and I'm like, all right, this is just too weird. But yeah, you came on to my Mad in America podcast on the same exact day. Like
that's
like 5
sometimes
years
the
ago.
irony of things is just unbelievable. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So here's my question for each of you guys. Well, it's a different question, but I'm going to ask each of you guys a question. Candy. Now, I had Autumn on the show a couple episodes back, and a lot of the topic was obviously women's arm wrestling, how to make it bigger, why she thought women don't show up to certain tournaments, and her opinion on it is that she felt that women's arm wrestling is too cliquey, and that if women don't like each other, they avoid each other, versus where men will get up on the table and fight it out. What do you feel is the reason why, with all the talent, and there's a lot of talent in the women's division, what do you feel is the reason why the women's division just will not grow?
I think there are cliques, but I don't think that that's what's keeping females from showing up. I think it has a lot to do with, let's just say, for example, quick and short, Paul didn't arm wrestle, and I was the arm wrestler. I'm still a mom. I'm a wife. I have to take care of the household, the kids, the bills, make sure they're paid, all this stuff. It's almost like it's like if I told Paul tonight, like if I said, "Hey, babe," and he had nothing to do with arm wrestling, and I just was arm wrestling just to arm wrestle. Hey, I'm going to, fly out to wherever this weekend or whatever to arm wrestle. He would be supportive-ish, but then he would be like, well, what am I supposed to do with the kids? And we got this and we got this and we have this. And what about this and all this stuff? So not that he's not supportive. I just feel like as a female, especially if you have kids, you have a lot more that you have to arrange and get solidified and in place in order to go compete. Whereas the men, they can just go compete. Like they might not have a pot to piss in. They're going to go to an arm wrestling tournament. They'll sleep in their car. They'll do whatever. But as a female, especially having kids, you have to think about, okay, well, Johnny has to be picked up from this. Bobby has to be this, all that. Like you have way more stuff that you have to deal with. And that's why, like, even all women's things, like the one in North Carolina, May 2nd, like everybody's trying to figure out, okay, am I going to fly? Am I going to drive? Okay, now I can't fly. Like I'm going to have to drive because my job, my kids, all this stuff, like schedules. It's just really hard to get females to commit because I told Paul the other day, he was asking me, what are we doing on this date? And I said, that's why I don't RSVP. Like I literally day by day, like I don't plan anything ahead of time. Like, because I don't ever know. What if one of the boys are sick? What if my car breaks down? That's the things I think about where he can just go arm wrestle. Like I make sure everything's taken care of so he can arm wrestle. And I think a lot of females are that same way. If I'm having to pay for a flight to go stay somewhere and then pay for hotel and all that just to show up to a tournament, just to show up and maybe pull one other person, it's not worth it to me. I'm thinking about that money could have paid our power bill. That could have paid for groceries that week. That could have paid, that's what the female mentality is. So yes, I agree with Autumn. There are cliques. There are cliques. And there are people that like to duck people. Once they've beaten them one time, they don't want to pull them again. And then there's other people that surpass you and don't want to pull you because they want to pull another woman or whatever when you are obligated to have that match. So there's that. So I wouldn't necessarily call that cliques. I would call that basically they're trying to make a name for themselves because they're pulling and they have the opportunity to pull. And then also not having the, at the end of the day, if somebody called us and said, hey, we want Paul and we'll get Katie a match. If he's wrestling or football or if Henry's got something going on, Paul goes. It's not Paul stays, Katie goes. Because I'm the woman, I'm the female. I don't make a name for myself, all this stuff. He's the bigger name. But when you have females that don't have husbands or significant others that arm wrestle and they're trying to promote themselves, they're probably staying home with the kids and have their schedule and jobs and all of that. So I think everybody's like, let's just get it out there. There will be more females if we just get it out there and show them how cool arm wrestling is. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think it literally is logistics and family and whatever. I think female involvement is going to stay the way that it is because of that. I don't think payouts, you could say $2,000 payouts. But if people are having to fly in and pay for their flights and drive in and figure out the kids and the dogs and the lizards and the fish and all this stuff, they're still not going to show up. It doesn't matter about payouts. It really doesn't. So that's my opinion in a nutshell.
All right, Daniel, I'm going to put you on the spot. You got to be 100% honest. Do you ever sit back when you're thinking about a tournament or you're thinking about your future in arm wrestling? Do you ever dream or fantasize about pulling your dad in a super match and beating him?
I've always wanted to pull him in overalls at like the end of a tournament, but it could have happened at Gulf Shores, but he decided to lose to Ellison, so it didn't happen. It could have happened, but
There that is.
it just didn't. So I've always wanted to do that, and the opportunity was there. It just didn't happen. Super match, maybe when he's like really, really old and I can actually beat him, but not right now, no.
So if you were ever to meet your dad in the overalls, what would be your plan in attacking? Would you attack his arm? Would you attack his hand? Would you try to separate him from his bicep? What would be your game plan to trying to beat your dad?
Get him the false start and let me try to get away with a false start.
Nice. Well, like Tom Nelson says, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
I've already told everybody the only way to beat Paul is to tickle him.
Whenever I had to go against Ellison in overalls, that's what I did.
You tickled him?
No, I didn't tickle him. I false started. I like false started against him, and I tried to get away with it, and I tried to get him to jump, and he didn't.
Nice. So, Paul, we're going to start off your segment of this interview with this question. You have pulled some of the greatest people that this sport has to offer. I mean, you've won multiple PAF championships. You bested Corey West in your WAL match against him. I mean, you've come back from a broken arm, and in my opinion, you've come back stronger and better. But out of everything you've done in the sport of arm wrestling, what else would you like to accomplish? What else would you like to add to your resume?
I'm beginning to move on to kind of world class competition, pulling pullers from foreign countries. You know, I pulled Ahmed from France at the EVW Challenger Series and was able to beat him. Had that banger of a match with Arm Gods with British champion James Wall. Had another banger of a match with Jihad Min at Knuckles Up. You know, just wars. No, you know, so now I'm pulling on world level competition. Last year was kind of my breakout year for pulling world level, and I proved, at the very least, I proved I belong. You know, all my matches, win or lose, you know, won some, lost some, were very competitive and respectful. You know, so my goal now that I've kind of got my feet wet, you know, last year doing it, is to do it and move on. If I could say what I want to accomplish, I want to bust onto the EVW stage and work my way up into world-class competition and beat some of the best arm wrestlers in the world. You know, I want to be on the stage with the best of the best at the whatever, you know, because the best organization comes and goes, but the best pullers stay. But I want to be on whatever the best organization is at that period in time, pulling with the best of the best and winning. I want to be a world champion. And I've, over the last few months, probably 6 months, I've completely, the way I always trained worked until I could tell it started to not work. And I'm the type of person, I realize things real fast. And I thought, and I revamped everything. I threw out what I was doing and revamped it. And I've fixed all my problems. And I actually spend a lot of time studying the sport. My table IQ is 1,000% better than it's ever been right now. I see things now that I never saw before. My knowledge on the table and my angles. I can look at a puller that's a prospective opponent and pick them apart real fast. Everything they're doing, I'm like, okay, that's what I need to do. I never could do that before. And then I'm more versatile, and I've also figured out some places that I was weak that I needed to make stronger and why I needed to make it stronger. You know, my pronation was never much of a strength of mine. And I realized I needed that pronation to help set the hook and keep my hand while I was setting the hook. So I've really set myself. And then there's certain techniques and tactics I've learned through studying that's made me a lot better puller. And I think this is going to be my breakout year. I'm so much stronger and more technical and faster and in better shape and everything in a lighter weight than I've ever been right now. This is the best version of me by 100 miles in every way. I can beat you with a top roll. I can beat you with a press. I can beat you with several versions of the hook, several versions of the top roll. I'm a lot faster and stronger, and I've closed up my weaknesses, and I've really increased my table IQ, and I really am ready now, especially that I've gotten a little, you know, international experience to keep on that track. And I want to knock down some big names and keep moving forward.
So I might regret this next question. So you say you can pull people apart and tell them where their weaknesses are. Now, you've seen me pull a few times. So if I was your opponent, other than the fact that you would demolish me, I couldn't even hold your jock strap on the table. But if I was a prospective opponent of yours, how would you critique me as a puller?
One weakness that I've seen with you is speed, your start, but it's not one thing I've learned through some of my studies over the past, year where I've really been studying it is speed isn't necessarily hitting for a flash pin. Speed is hitting for a position. So you gotta know where you need to get with that particular opponent and get there faster. For example, have you ever seen Bryce Meadows pull? He's got quite a highlight reel.
Yes, I have.
The guy's lightning, right? Everybody he pulls, it's you can snap your fingers and their hands bouncing off the pad, right?
Right.
I saw that, and I knew he was really fast. But when we pulled, it may not have looked like it, but I was considerably faster than him because I knew I needed to hit for a certain position immediately to negate everything he does. So, for example, Bryce, he sets up. When they say go, it's everything he's got to the pad, and he's really quick with it. And he sets up on the outside of the table. So what I did with him, most other people set up on the outside of the table too. And when they try to hit, he's got room to build that momentum. And by the time they hit, he's got so much momentum going, he blows through them. Nobody can stop him. Literally, high level guys, everybody he pulled, he was blowing right through. So what I saw with him, and I'm going to get kind of back what I'm talking about with you, I set up as close to the inside as they would let me. They're pulling my elbow more towards the middle of the table, but I got crowded him as much as I could crowd him. It ended up being pretty much in the middle of the table, and I loaded with as much side pressure as I could get away with loading because Bryce will not pull you without ending up in the straps and the rest grip. That's just part of it, too. He's going to fidget until you're in the rest grip and the straps.
Okay.
So I'm holding as much pressure as I can, staying in the middle of the table. And I dump my hand also, and I keep my thumb cocked back when they're putting us in the rest grip. That means they put our thumbs, if my thumb's straight, they're going to put us here. If my thumb's back, my thumb's closer, and they're going to put my hand closer. And when they close it, I'm further around him. And my first move was I jammed into his corner with everything I had as fast as I could. That way he couldn't build up any momentum. I jammed into him and I stayed tight and I got my shoulder in there as far. I didn't cross the center of the table. I stayed legal. And when he hit and I was just looking at his hand didn't move. And his arm and his whole body went under the table. And I was here with all the leverage, and it was just as simple as pushing his hand over. Nice. So I would hit for a position with you really fast that would put me in a dominant leverage angle to where I had everything. I wouldn't try to hit you for the pin. I would hit into a quick, short position really fast where I had all the advantage. And then hopefully you would take off and open up even more, and I wouldn't even have to put a lot of pressure to pin you. Most people, when I hit and take all the leverage, they strain so hard, they make it worse on themselves because they open up. And when I watch that arm open, then I attack.
So you've seen me pull a couple of times. Now I've got 2 super matches coming up. One against Danny Medreos, 380-pound guy. That's May 30th. And then Julius Blair on July 18th. I don't know if you know either one of those guys. Julius, I actually pulled him at my event.
I pulled Julius. You remember I caught Julius and held him and talked to him. And
that's right before our match. So
yeah.
Julius and I kind of have a grudge match. I beat him a few months earlier back in September, and he beat me in November. So going into pulling us both, going into that match, what would your advice be to me getting ready to pull Julius? Like what areas should I work on as far as building strength? And what position should I work on training in?
Get your knuckles high. Dump your thumb. Put your hand on the table with your thumb as far back as you can. And that's all you do. And let him come up and grab you. Do not close. Keep your thumb dumped. When he grabs you, keep your thumb open. Let him grab your thumb. And he's going to grab very low on your hand, then close. And he's going to be even lower. And then they're going to want to turn you straight and try to get away with being cocked out slightly.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, go. Your first move is this, straight back. Make him hold on to you. And so it's not this, and it's not this, it's this.
Right.
And he's going to be trying to hold on, and that's going to be very hard. And if he holds on, once you get here, roll over on him. And you're going to be really tight, and you're still going to cup, but you're not coming this way. You're going this way, so you're cupped. And you're not trying to do this like a lot of people top roll and force his hand down. You're here. You got it without putting any pressure. And if he follows you, because he likes to hook, he's going to try to hold on. And if he don't, do the same thing in a strap. You're probably going to go to a strap when you do that, because if he holds on here, is foolish. But if he does, you've got everything and just come over with him. So when you're here, do the same thing in the strap. Keep your thumb down. Do not close your thumb until you keep it dumped as much as you can, and your knuckles as high as you can. And do not close your thumb until he grabs it, because that's going to put him way lower on your hand. And then when they say, and they put the strap on, you want that strap, you want to kind of wiggle your arm into that strap and get it tight here. And when they say go, back this way. And then you're real tight, and then you've got a cup too. And then just bam with a strap, and you're going to pull straight on that strap.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
I totally understand.
I would set up, because I would set up as close to his side of the table as you can get away with also. That way you got more room to run this way.
Okay.
And it crowds him, and he can't get any momentum. And he's going to try to hold on to you, and you got this much room to go that way. And then just roll over. Pull him to the back of the pad, stay tall, engage, all your whole lever, and pull back with all your brachials, bicep, and lat, and stay tall and tight and get here. And then once you do that, just roll over on him. You shouldn't have any trouble with him if you do that. Just be fast to right here.
Right.
That's where you got to be fast to. You're not hitting to win. You're hitting for all that leverage, and then you'll have everything you need once you do that. If you're real fast to here.
Yeah.
Knuckles high, thumb dump.
Okay. I understand that. So my next question for you, Paul, is, again, you've been in a lot of matches. You've got a hell of a resume. I believe you're currently competing in the 242 class.
Yeah, I pull in 105 and 110 kilogram, which is the 230 or the 242. I stay in between.
In between. So in those two weight classes, if there was a match that you could get for 2026, a defining match, who would that person be, and why would you want to pull?
Paul Lynn.
Really? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and no disrespect to Paul, but weren't you supposed to pull him a little while ago, like a couple of years ago, and he just kind of dodged you?
So early on, I started out the sport at 242 before I went to supers, and Paul was too. We did line up a super match at one point, and shortly before it happened, for whatever reason, he wasn't able to do it. And then I was dominating 242 pretty well at that point, and so was he. And there's a lot of people that wanted to see the match. It didn't happen. I went to supers, and he actually went down some. But yeah, now that I'm back at around the same weight, it'd be a fun match. I'd like to run that one day if I could pick one person. Paul Lynn would probably be the number one I would pick. I think that'd be a good one.
What about you, Candy?
Sky Renee.
Why?
I feel like
Makes a good match.
it makes a good match. We're the same weight. She's got bigger boobs than me, of course, but as far as technical, whatever, I feel like it's a match that needs to happen at our weight. And then Dustin Pools is her husband.
Yeah.
Husband. And he possibly talked about us pulling at Winter Blast, and then now it's not going to happen, and then calls her out for the winner between Scarlett and Susie. And I'm like, I feel like it's stepping over me to get to there. Like, the match between me and Sky needs to happen. Like, it's just kind of, you know how you like make a book and you're like, okay, let me put this, and this. The match between me and Sky needs to happen. It's needed to happen for over a year, but it's just never lined up where we meet up, whatever. I have called her out. I've told every promoter, I need to pull Sky. I need to pull Sky. I want to pull Sky. I want to pull Sky. It's just a match that needs to happen because we're the same weight. We pull the same way. Now she's got Sarah Backman that she's, training with, all this stuff. Like, it just needs to happen. Like, me and Sky. So before my birthday, December 19th, when I'm 45, I want to pull Sky Renee before the year's over with. That's my goal. Is I want to pull Sky Renee.
You just made me feel super old. You're only 2 years older than my oldest child.
Well, I'm still a spring chicken.
There you go. Okay, Daniel. At 16 years old, if you could pick anybody this year to get on the table with, who would it be?
Henry, come here.
I don't have anybody.
You don't have nobody?
Nobody.
For me, I would love to pull Wes Bjornsson again.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be good. Yeah.
I that was the only match I ever reffed.
That was a good match. That went my way.
Yeah, it was a good one. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it and reffing it at the same time.
And
I
we
think
didn't
I did a
see
pretty good job reffing that time.
what's that?
I think I did a pretty good job reffing. That was my one time ever reffing an arm wrestling match.
You did. I'll have to send you the video. I have it in my private collection on this YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So then my final question for all you guys is this. How do you feel arm wrestling has helped you all as a family unit? And what advice would you give somebody coming into the sport? Candy, as you know, my daughter arm wrestles. So as a young lady, growing up, going through those stages, what advice do you give to young women or young ladies wanting to come into the sport? Daniel, what would you say to young men coming into the sport? And Paul, what would you say to a guy who's watching the sport for the first time, getting excited about it and wanting to come in? So you got each one of you guys have a question individually, and then I want to know how you feel arm wrestling has brought you closer as a family unit. Whoever wants to go.
I'll start. As a female and as a young, which I love Merida, I just say go for it. I mean, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Had no idea. And it's honestly a big family. It's more of a family than anything. Just go have fun. And you know what? If you lose, guess what? You'll have another match. So just do your best and be personable, which, most females are. They're personable, don't get butt hurt, whatever. It's different for females than it is males. I feel like males, they're out to get something. When females, at the end of every match, what do you see every female match? We hug each other, like across the table, after the match, whatever. When guys, they're like fist bump, if that, or they're pissed off and walk off the stage. Like, you make friendships. And even people that I've beaten or lost to, I'm still great friends with. Like, it's just a big sisterhood, whatever, as far as females go. Just keep trying. I mean, if you lose every single match, guess what? There's another match, like probably the next month.
Daniel?
I'd say if I'm trying to persuade them into getting into the sport, then I shouldn't have to be talking to them anyways. But if they're wanting to get into the sport, then it makes it way easier because it's a good party trick, really. Just to be able to call out anybody in the room and biggest, strongest person and just smoke them, that's a good reason.
Yeah, Daniel can beat all of his football coaches and wrestling coaches and everybody at his school.
It's not even close.
Yeah, he beats any grown man that doesn't know how to arm wrestle. He beats most of the people on our team that are pretty good arm wrestlers now.
Right.
Yeah, he'll even bang it out with our super heavyweights and beat them and stuff on it during practice.
So I reiterate, when I come out there in June, Daniel, to come see my daughter and my grandson, do not hurt me if I get on the table with you.
He broke a guy's arm in one of our practices recently.
I'll watch. I'll treat you like I treat your dad. I'll just watch from afar.
Yeah, he's very good. He's very good. He's worked for me now.
Nice. So, Paul, what would you say to a guy wanting to get into the sport, but isn't just sure about it, but gets excited whenever he sees the sport?
Yeah, I would be like, very, very encouraging. I try to recruit anybody I can to get into the sport. And then I would say to definitely get with a team and some people that know what they're doing and train and learn bad positions first and learn to definitely stay out of them. And then honestly, learn the top roll first because most people kind of naturally know how to hook. And the press is a little bit more of a dangerous move, especially for a beginner. I kind of discourage beginners from pressing until they've done it for a while. Learn the top roll because when I first started arm wrestling, I had no clue what a top roll was, and I was a good barroom arm wrestler, and everybody was beating me. I was like, "What the hell is this stupid top roll move?" I hated it, but I had to learn it and then learn how to defend it. But learn the top roll. Learn how to arm wrestle safe, and then make sure you arm wrestle safe. And know this, in amateur competition, I know pride matters, and this is the advice I give new guys. But if you get in a bad position in an amateur match, let it go. We teach you what the bad positions are. If you get hurt as an amateur, you're probably not going to ever arm wrestle again. So if you get in a bad spot, it doesn't matter if you never lose an amateur match, it doesn't matter. Once you go pro, you've conditioned yourself a little bit, and you can start taking risk and doing riskier moves. But as an amateur, you want to stay healthy. You want to learn how to arm wrestle properly, and then learn that top roll, and then start learning technique and just improve. And if you find yourself in a bad spot, just let it go and live to fight another day and learn that lesson. And do not risk getting hurt as an amateur because I don't want to lose a potential really good arm wrestler one day because they had too much pride as an amateur and hurt themselves.
Nice.
Yeah, listen to your body too. Your body tells you a lot. If you're really not feeling good, something's feeling off, rest. Don't go arm wrestle that day. So your body can tell you a lot if you listen.
So predictions before we close this out. Predictions for East versus West 22.
All right, name me a couple matches. What Devin and what's his name?
Pull it up here.
Yeah. If I had the card, I could go through there and kind of give you some thoughts.
So we got I ain't gonna be able to pronounce any of these names, but we got Laitland versus Lorette. Let's go. Let's start with that one.
So yeah, how can you ever go against Devin? You know, the guy's when he's supposed to lose, he still wins. Even though it's left, I think it's going to be a good one, and it's not going to be a clean sweep. But I think Devin, by the end of that match, figures it out, and you know, by the time it's over, he comes out with a victory. I think maybe he's going to start out struggling a little bit with him, but he's probably got a good game plan where he's going to drag him into deep water and drown him.
Hey, what about Petrenko and Hutchings?
Hutchings.
So here's a match I'm actually most interested in. Jablonski versus Monster Michael Todd.
Well, you know, you got your presser against your King's mover, which they're perfect moves to do against each other. So I think Michael beats Jablonski. I think Michael ends up. Yeah, I think Michael comes out with that one. I think his endurance in that King's move, I think he'll bleed him out. You know, I don't think that press is probably going to be a nasty match, kind of like him and Jerry, but I think he'll bleed him out and eventually beat him.
All right. What about Rezic versus Ivanovic?
I'm going probably Rezic. It's going to be a close one, I believe. It'll probably go, if they're going out of 5, it'll probably be a 3-2.
Okay. Kalachenko versus Sony.
Probably Sony on that one.
Mask, and I'm going to destroy this name. Mask versus Arabuli.
I got Mask. He's been on tear lately.
Yeah, I agree.
He's got his work cut out for him, but I think he's going to win that one.
All right. What about Komik versus Musa Farah?
I'm going to stick with Musa Farah on that one. I believe there's a little bit of a speed advantage there.
And this is why I could never be an announcer, man. It's like you need a college degree to pronounce these names.
Then you just sneeze, and that's what it sounds like.
Achoo! Achoo versus Achoo. Okay, how about Krasa Vitskis against Pelenin?
Krasavitskis on that one. I think he's just got too much power.
And then my final one is Chikadis versus Tokyo. Sorry that I brutalized your names.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. I don't know enough about those two to really call it.
So I got to be honest with you. I'm really hoping Jablonski beats Todd. I've never liked the King's move. I mean, I've seen matches where Todd gets into his position, he's opened all the way up, and he's literally let go of the hand to prevent from being pinned. I don't understand why they allow that, but I really hope Jablonski beats him. I follow Jablonski on his social media, his training. He's really leveled up over the past year. I agree with you, Paul, when it comes to Devin. I agree that by the end of by the third match, it's not going to be a match anymore. I think Devin's going to have it completely figured out, and the rest of the matches will be easy for him to get through.
Devin's just so versatile. You know, he's got such a deep toolbox. You know, you're gonna have to beat him a completely different way 3 times every round. You know, he's gonna make that match nasty. And if he finds the toe hold, you're in trouble.
Oh, I mean, again, like you said, he's got such a library of techniques and ways that he can beat you. You're right. It's like every match is going to be like pulling a different person because you just don't know which way he's going to attack it. I'm looking. I've actually never watched an East versus West, but I'm actually for this one. I'm actually going to get the pay-per-view for it. One big reason is because I really like what Rob Baxter and Dexter Tran did for Angela Christine Rose. With everybody who purchased product from them, it went to Angela. Also, what you guys did with these shirts, just gonna again show my Georgia shirt. That was awesome what you guys did. Angela's an awesome person. And with that, guys, I am gonna end this and say thank you guys so much for coming on. I miss you. It's always a pleasure to have you on. We had to get Candy on here because, again, there would be no Fuller's Pit if it wasn't for her. She named us, so we had to get her on here. And, again, as always, guys, it's been a pleasure having you. I can't wait to see your next super match, Paul and Candy. I really want to see that match between you and Deb Beninin. Deb is a legend in the sport, and if you can pull a win off with her, that's going to really, really legitimize you as one of the top women in our sport. So I'm really looking forward to that. And as always, guys, love you guys. Peace, love, and hang loose, guys. Take care. Thank you.
Love you, brother. Thank you for the opportunity. We enjoyed it.